hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be leading our next panel. Honestly, gentlemen, we have some serious acts to follow, so let's all bring our A game. This should be really good. It's been a great flow so far, and we're going to be focusing on security with this conversation. And we have a really good cross-representative group of folks, both background-wise and company-wise, to really embrace this. We have a really wonderful set of sales experience, of technical experience, hands-on, pre-sales technical experience, practitioner experience from an advisor perspective. It's just a really good, I think, representative group for us to really be able to dig into this really meaty topic. And so if we could, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our folks. I'm gonna pitch it over to them in just one quick moment. But just so you know, similar to what Jacob said in his panel, I'm the least important of this wonderful group of people, but I am Matt Shufeldt. I'm the VP of Services at EVOTEK. I've actually been at EVOTEK for about 4.5 years now. I originally joined as one of our very first CISO executive advisors before taking over all of services over the last couple of years. And before that, I was a CISO multiple times, multiple industries, also a senior executive in IT. I've been in the industry for a bit over 30 years. So I'm going to go ahead and pitch it over to Adam. Would you mind please giving your intro, sir?
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Thank you, EVOTEK, for having me. So yes, it's my pleasure to speak to everyone. So I'm from the UK originally, as you can probably hear, but now living in Israel for almost 10 years. I'm heading up the Sales and Alliances team here at Adaptive Shield. And for those of you that don't know, Adaptive Shield is a SPM, SaaS Security Posture Management tool, which is essentially giving organizations the ability to monitor and maintain and protect their entire SaaS estate. So it's great to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful. And Mick, would you go next, please, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Mick Leach. I'm Field CISO at Abnormal Security. We're an AI native email security company that uses behavioral AI to prevent business email compromise, vendor fraud, and other socially engineered attacks. I've been here about 2 years, and prior to coming to Abnormal, I led security operations, engineering, architecture teams at Fortune 500 companies. So been doing this on the vendor side for a little while now.
Fantastic background, Mick. And John, please.
Yeah, so I'm the manager of Tynes Labs, which is the research organization in Tynes. If you don't know Tynes, we're a no-code, low-code security automation platform looking to automate the manual repetitive work that basically every team has to deal with. Every organization will think that their processes are unique to just them, but what we've really found is that every organization, the processes are about 80% similar, and you just need to tweak that last 20%. What we're aiming to do is bring security automation to those that 80% of processes, and then through Tynes being able to adapt that really quickly and easily into your own processes, so you can make like really quick solutions that your team needs without needing a developer or engineering team to build this solution for you, because they often don't know exactly what you're looking for to what your team needs.
You know, John, starting off your intro with a very controversial topic that not all things in security are special and unique. Now that's, I don't know, that may be too controversial to start with.
Well, everybody is very unique in their own way. It's just 80% of it. Snowflakes all have about 80% the same thing, right?
Oh, I sorry, my irony. I hope my irony wasn't too obvious, but I actually agree. I think it's a great place to just kick off of. And you know, we've already covered so much about AI in the earlier presentations that, frankly, we're going to touch on it probably lightly. But since we've already gotten so much great information from the other speakers, just to let everybody know, we're going to really try to focus on the larger trends and have still impact from emerging tech especially. But we're going to go broader. We're going to go broader on this topic. It's not that AI is not incredibly important, and I'm sure we'll bring it up a couple of times, but we want to make sure that we're being more inclusive of covering how emerging tech can really affect security as a whole. So let's just go ahead and start off with a more general topic. I would love for each of you to just think about, what are the current things impacting security strategies for security leaders or technology leaders that are trying to lead security teams, business leaders that are trying to lead security teams, things like macroeconomic impacts, my favorite, the tyranny of the urgent, different workforce models, etc. And so if we could just quickly touch on that, I would love to hear from you first, Adam.
Yeah, sure. So, one of the biggest transitions we've seen, actually, even before COVID, and certainly COVID has expedited it even further. Something that was already moving very, very quickly is, of course, the new ways of working, be it through a browser, through through a device of your choice, hybrid, in the office, not in the office. Organizations today, whatever they decide is their best fit for them, security teams need to really be adaptable and be able to support all of them, all of the above, because things are changing so dynamically. And of course, nowhere is this seen greater than in the SaaS world. And so the days of having all of your applications and all of your infrastructure neatly in a data center somewhere have long gone. Now your applications are living in the cloud, in multiple clouds across multiple SaaS apps and other various cloud infrastructures, as well as on-premise sometimes as well. So security teams need to adapt to that as well, and the security models need to follow that new way of working.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing that across our customers as well, Adam. And, I would say this really kind of transitional hybrid workforce stage is doubling down a lot of those things, almost multiplying the challenges we saw before and during. How about you, Mick? What's your views on this?
Yeah, and I know we've had a couple of sessions on AI and how that's changing things, and certainly that's something we're seeing over here at Abnormal, is how AI is absolutely leveling the playing field for bad actors. Folks that couldn't put together a coherent English sentence 6 months ago are now able to craft a very realistic spear phishing message, better than my 10th grade English teacher, Mrs. Fox, if you're not watching. I'll turn it in later. No, that's what we're seeing is bad actors being able to reach our employees through the most common, broadest attack surface that we have today, which is email. And no matter what tech stack we bring to the table, bad actors are always finding new and exciting ways of circumventing that. And so what we're seeing most often these days is social engineering attempts that don't have a lot of the classic tried and true methods that have been used in the past. Things like malicious links or malicious attachments. We think about the way we used to tell our users to protect themselves. Just don't open any attachments and you'll be safe. Don't click on any links and you'll be safe. The reality is that's not the way it works anymore, right? Bad actors have abandoned most of those tried and true methods in lieu of just a message that starts with, "Hey, Bill, it's Bob. Give me a call when you have a minute." It's really more about just starting a conversation now. And so that's where we're going. And to that end, I think we need to use good AI to fight the bad AI out there. And so we're always looking for machine learning algorithms that are constantly evolving and adapting and finding attack techniques, even in messages that lack all of those things.
Well, it's funny. One of my colleagues just earlier today was bringing up the AI arms race and how we're matching AI against AI, and I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here, Mick, and just ask, what do you think can keep us out in front of that arms race? Is it our creativity? Is it our thought processes around efficiency? We actually understand how organizations or technologies work better than some of the attackers. What do you think?
I'll be honest. I think it really comes down to the large language models that you're using, right? Clean data in gives us good data back out. And so being very rigorous about the models that we're using, and then constantly iterating on the data inputs that we're having. I watched the session a moment ago where one of the gentlemen was talking about that, just how important those data sets are. And how there are only three ways to get, there are only three facets that you get to use: the hardware, the software, and the data. And so using those good, clean data to train our models, that's what's ultimately going to give us the highest efficacy in terms of detection.
That brings up another question that I'm going to table, but I am going to come back to in a minute. First, I would love to get your thoughts on this topic as well, John.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm really encouraged by the growth in identity controls that we've seen since COVID. I can remember having to log into the VPN like 3 times a day, and that is not the reality anymore. So that's been really awesome. The connectivity, the access to tooling has been able to enable me to do my job a lot better. But that's also come with a downside as well. Most attacks now are identity based, and the fact that you can steal a session token or a login that somebody reused personally, that's really dangerous. So I think we need to take another step forward on like authentication mechanisms, logging, identity analytics. But I'm just really excited to see that identity has been the place where we've like focused since COVID, and since we've been part of a more connected working environment. Yeah, we just have more to do there to make it as strong as possible.
No, that's a great point. And frankly, I'm really encouraged that, finally there's some official documented guidance around zero trust. So it's not such a architecture conversation, because identity is so critical to that, right? And it wasn't even getting mentioned in a lot of conversations. It was purely around segmentation models, or purely around, making sure that only this app or this service could talk to these set of folks. Like it's multifaceted. So thank you for bringing that up. So this is the second time in a very short period of time that I've heard two of you say that's not the reality anymore. So Adam, since you deal all the time in sales, let me just pitch right back to you real quick. How do we help our customers and all of their constituents and customers, et cetera, really understand what the biggest priorities are? How are we additive to resetting that reality for them?
So I think first and foremost, we need to listen. We need to understand exactly what the priorities are. I mean, we're all offering various opinions here of what we see in the market, but of course, everyone will have their own priorities. So that's obviously the first rule. And then I think it's really a case of leveraging what people have. So as some of my co-panelists have said here, being able to use technologies in order to leverage. You're already investing in email, and you need to get the most out of that, or you're investing in SaaS, you need to get the most out of that. And so really prioritization through listening and understanding, and then helping people leverage, their existing assets. And yeah, okay, we all want to sell our products to people, but we need to do so in a way that, ties in with the resources and the focus and the priorities that they have.
That's a crazy good answer, Adam. And frankly, I think when we make it about what they're trying to accomplish, that's really the key. Because that's what they're trying to do with their businesses or organizations, is really try to help their constituents, their customers, their shareholders, et cetera. So really appreciate that. So I'm gonna pitch us over to a topic that is both near and dear to my heart and painful for me as a multi-time former CISO. And I see my customers struggle with this all the time. Vulnerabilities and vulnerability management. Sometimes it gets reduced down to a simple patch management conversation, which is not accurate, right? It's everything from patches to configurations to suboptimal processes that lead to exploitation, et cetera. So I would love to know from all of your points of view, how is newer technology, emerging technology, helping with this area that won't go away? It just keeps getting worse and worse. And so I'm going to go ahead and start with you, Mick. What are your thoughts on that?
Sure. Yeah, and I mentioned it a minute ago, and I've led vulnerability, management programs at different companies over the years. And you're right, it's a constant battle, right? You just feel like, and especially with the volume of things that vulnerabilities that are being detected and shared with us by vendors today is just overwhelming. At a previous gig, we would have it was not uncommon to have 600,000 to 800,000 vulnerabilities at any given minute. And you're talking about both infrastructure, you're talking about software, you're talking about code vulnerabilities, and they're just the breadth is so broad. And so that's where I think, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, but using good AI to fight bad AI is absolutely critical here. because there just simply isn't time to protect everything, not patch it the way we would like to. We've got to use, good AI to go out and find opportunities for us to patch things, to improve things, to detect exploits that we might not otherwise see, so that we can better protect our folks.
That's well said. John, I'm going to hit you next.
Yeah, and just to like tack on to Mick's point, I think the good AI is actually really interesting, and I think we mentioned creativity that might be holding us back. The good AI has a chance for us to possibly impose costs back on the attackers, because it can generate human-like responses that could be absolute waste of time. That if attacker tried to like follow through on the human element, they might end up wasting a lot of their own time. So I'd be really excited for that. I think as far as managing,
before you move off of that, would you?
Yeah.
When you say that, it makes me think of like AI-enabled counterintelligence. Is that kind of how you're thinking about it?
Potentially, in a sense, and honestly, really, it gets back to: are we just not thinking about the problems like we could have, or like that we could, because we've been traditionally thinking about them like the solutions that would have been impossible if we only threw people at the problem, right?
Yeah.
So I think like that research and that exploration of solutions will kind of evolve over time, and maybe we'll see something really cool happen.
Thank you, John. Please continue with what you're about to say.
Yeah, I think I'll just lead with another hot take, is that I think we've actually gotten a little bit better at security over time. A lot of people don't like to admit that, but I think we've actually made some progress. Unfortunately, the attackers have just gotten better at making money, right? So they are able to ransomware devices. They're able to pull out all the information, all the good information, a lot faster than we could have ever responded. So we just need to like focus our efforts on the solution providers that are creating these solutions, and really we'll need their help and their scale to be able to tackle these a lot more efficiently, so that not everybody's going for like one-off processes to try and fix the same problem.
So John, I think you're hearing the pragmatist in me, not the pessimist, but the pragmatist in me, when you kind of hear the way I tonally refer to it. And the reason for it is I agree that many groups, both organizational, for like OWASP, ISSA, CISA, all these folks contributing to how we do security have all improved. And I think a lot of internal teams have improved. It's so complex and hard. But the issues we talk about year over year, they don't change much. They're pretty similar almost every year. There's a couple new entries, obviously new threat actors and new complications. But there's such repeat problems. I think that's why I think we just have to fundamentally, double down. Which is why I'm really happy to hear what you and Mick have both said about how you're thinking about security and how you're trying to help your customers and the community in general. So Adam, you're following two really good answers. What are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, really good answers. So I'm actually going to dumb it down a bit for my benefit, more than anyone else's. So whilst it's absolutely true that there's some very heavy attacks and vulnerabilities and threats that we're seeing, in the last few years and getting more and more. What we also see, if you kind of look at a lot of the breaches and the attacks that we see, some of them really recent, they're often at quite a simplistic level in terms of someone somewhere has left a door open or has access to something that they shouldn't have, and then when that account is compromised, it's game over. So whilst organizations absolutely need to invest in protecting against those sophisticated levels of attacks, making sure the back door is closed and the right people have the right set of keys. This is also not to be overlooked. So this is certainly in our space, and from what I see my peers in the industry, this is a very important piece to have as well. How many people do you have have access to your SSO or IDP? Is it too many? Is it the wrong people? Just one example out of many.
No, I think that's really well said. So one, I'm gonna just prompt our audience real quick. I'm gonna ask another question that's gonna potentially put these folks on their heels, and hopefully they'll forgive me for it. Or maybe it'll be great and it'll be easy to answer. But while we're talking through that topic, I'd love for you guys to ask any questions you might have. I mean, it's a really good group of folks, really rare opportunity to get all these different points of view. So I'll leave that for the audience while I dig into this. So the topic that a lot of security vendors do not like to talk about is that we've seen security vendors and frankly IT management vendors targeted a lot by threat actors. And they suffer from supply chain attacks and actually become an enablement mechanism for attacks on their flow down customers. So what do you think cybersecurity companies really should be focusing on and doubling down on, and IT management companies as well, to make sure they're not becoming part of the problem while they're trying to help with the overall issue? And I'm going to go ahead and start out with John on this one.
Yeah, it's such a hard, complex topic, especially when you start getting like providers into the mix, because there's not a questionnaire that will ask everything that you need to be able to check that box, right? So that's really hard. I really end up concentrating on the first party issues at the end of the day. I think security is in just such a unique spot in deployment in many environments that it touches some of the most sensitive pieces of infrastructure, like Active Directory, and somebody needs access to this database that has all the credit cards and all that. What's really been unfortunate to see is all of the security first providers be the ones that are compromised, and because of their specific positions in an environment, they are the linchpin, or they're the access point. And I've worked a number of ransomware incidents where it all started with that. But to make progress here, I'm really encouraged by things like software bill of materials and the government emphasis on that document and being able to share it, and hopefully at some point be able to parse it and disseminate information really quickly so that people actually know what they're dealing with when a large incident happens and can make informed decisions for their own organizations.
Thanks for that, John. What do you think about that, Mick?
Yeah, I agree with John. I think the SBOM has been absolutely revolutionary in terms of being able to understand both internally where you're at, but also articulate externally, where those dependencies lie. So that's been really powerful. I think it comes down largely to two main issues, right? In terms of trying to protect from supply chain attacks. Number one, you've got to have really good third-party risk management practices on the front end. And then secondly, I think Adam will probably agree, just a solid posture management practice as well, right? The first, will vet your vendors as we're bringing them in, making sure that they are doing the right things, the right blocking and tackling things in their own environments to make sure that they don't fall victim to anything. But then the latter there, in terms of posture management, will allow us to constantly be reevaluating, doing ongoing reviews of access and permissions. We see scope creep or access entitlement creep constantly growing, because it's really easy to give access to something and then forget that that's happened, or that perhaps grows over time. And you end up in a much more vulnerable place than you otherwise would have wanted to be.
How about you, Adam? What do you think?
Yeah, so hard to follow those two detailed answers, but yeah, I'll obviously echo what Mick said. You can't protect what you can't see, and being able to continuously monitor and ensure that from a technical point of view, everything is ship shape. But also, to John's point, operationally, we're a cybersecurity company, and obviously there are thousands of us out there, and operationally we need to make sure that we have the transparency of what we're doing, when we're doing it. Even if, heaven forbid, something is going wrong as well, transparency is required, and those procedures and protocols in place so that the responsibilities that you have are all met accordingly. So that's obviously a key point there.
I'll tell you, I resisted the urge to yell hallelujah when you said be transparent, because a lot of vendors, whether they're managed providers or they're software providers, services providers, like their natural tendency to limit liability is to not be transparent. And I think it's absolutely essential. It improves time to action, and it improves the ability to partner and to trust. And I truly believe most security leaders out there, and most technology leaders for that matter, if they feel like you're there to work with them on those really complex topics, they're going to be in a much better place. And I'm just going to share a real quick thought, and I want you guys to correct me if you disagree. Is I think cybersecurity companies and technology companies are just like other for-profit companies, where they're balancing innovation with operational strain. And I think if people are transparent about that as well, it's easier for us all to work together. Would you guys disagree with that?
No,
Yeah.
Not at all.
No, I think you're spot on, Matt. I think it all comes down to risk tolerance. Every company has to understand what their risk tolerance is. I've worked at Fortune 500 banks with a very low risk tolerance. And then I think the risk tolerance at a vendor is a little bit higher, because we are pressed to innovate, fail fast and fail forward. And so we've just got to be able to do that safely.
Yeah, I think that's well said. So I'm going to do the most unfair question that every coordinator gets to do in a panel. I'd love for you guys to give a parting thought, guidance, or call to action in 45 seconds or less. Isn't that always fun? So let's go ahead and start with you, Adam.
Yeah, so I think I'll kind of summarize some of the points we've discussed here. Get for organizations out there looking at improving their security, which I hope is everyone, right? Get visibility on what you have currently. Leverage, your existing estates. It's okay to get the lions with lasers on their head patrolling the gates. But if you're just leaving the door and the window open and giving the key to the wrong person, then it's not helping you. So that would be my takeaway. In leverage what you have, get the most ROI from your existing infrastructure, and then by all means come and spend lots of money with vendors as well.
Like Adaptive Shield. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would just beat on the drum a little bit, but I would say making sure that as we're evaluating the next technologies that we're bringing into our tech stacks, that we're evaluating technologies that are able to use good AI to battle bad AI. And I say that lightly, but also at the same time with truth. And by that I mean the space is iterating so quickly that we can't innovate fast enough. It takes machine learning to iterate fast enough to stay with the bad guys. So make sure that you're constantly looking at technologies that are leveraging good AI to battle bad AI.
Thank you, Mick. John?
Yeah, I'll just build off what both these guys said. I think we're at a really good point where you can reevaluate what your tech stack is, or how you've been thinking about problems traditionally, especially over the past 3 years, and say, what's actually working? Where am I actually getting the value in my program? And be able to think about the problems differently than you had been. There had been probably 10 years ago a point where we needed to detect attacks in order to respond to them. And we didn't have really good intelligence on what was going to be my most vulnerable assets, in a sense, not like by vulnerabilities, but did we know that initial access through MITRE ATT&CK was everything that we could conceive of it? Did we know that phishing was the number one thing? Probably, but now we have frameworks, and now we have guidance that says this is what we should pay attention to. So give a look over, make sure that you're handling all of your alerts, make sure that you're responding to attacks, and make sure that you're locking out accounts that look suspicious. This is a good time right now to understand your processes a little bit better.
Thank you, John.
I'll set you up good for AI too.
So I'm going to thank the panelists. You guys did an amazing job. Thank you so much. Thank all the attendees. And you saw these different types of roles and types of backgrounds. This is true of your own internal organization. Security is a team sport. Don't forget that. Thank you all. Have a good one.
See you all.